All right, well, it seems we're ready to go. So with no further, delays, I want to welcome to the floor Linda Vella, who has over 25 years of experience managing projects, programs, and implementing enterprise project management offices in large companies such as TD Bank, Aon Insurance, Northbridge Financial, Aviva, Insurance Canada, Mortgage and Housing Corporation, and Ontario's Workplace Safety Insurance Board. She has been volunteering with PMI since 1996, initially with the Toronto chapter, where she held various roles, including president. She has served on the PMI Global Board of Directors, including holding the position of chair. Following her board term, she participated in a number of board-sponsored committees, most recently chairing the 2019 Global Board Nominating Committee. Linda currently teaches at the University of Toronto. For all of her contributions to PMI and the project management community, PMI has named her a PMI Fellow, its highest honor. Linda, thank you so much for being here and for moderating this panel.
Okay, hopefully I'm now unmuted and visible. Thank you, Amber. Appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone enjoyed that conversation that we had earlier. It was quite interesting and some really key tips I think that we got, especially at the end. So I'm going to be hosting a panel here, and we have 4 panelists, Jane Gallant, Amber Howard, Rika Kulshrestha, and Allison Monroe. And they're going to be talking mostly about their career journeys, what has made them successful, giving us some tips and secrets. But just to give you a further little bit of background on each of them, just a reminder, is a team leader at Next Innovations and SHL System House. She eventually moved into the public sector, where she's worked with the City of Brampton, the town of Markham, and she's currently with the City of Mississauga and heads up their PMO. Amber Howard, who we have been chatting with or have been listening to for a little while, is a PM and a BA consultant, and she really enjoys giving back to the community and is involved in various volunteer activities. Her careers include work both as a PM and a business analyst at Rexall, Greater Toronto Airport Authority, Royal Bank, Lakeridge Health, and also at ProSat. Rika has a 27-year career in project management, a good chunk mostly I think at IBM, where she's moved up to the position of associate partner. She's also a software development process guru, and is the past president of Toronto Software Process Improvement Network. And lastly, Allison is started off her career as a software project manager, and but has continued on and held positions as a DMR consultant and a scientific officer for the European Commission before she joined the City of Vaughan as a PM. She's overseeing the City of Vaughan's IT portfolio. So as we move into this, we're going to ask each of our panelists to speak for approximately 8 minutes each, and they will give some overview and tell us a little bit about what has made them successful, give us some of the tips and secrets that they have had over the years to help them to get where they are. And then once each of them have spoken, we'll have an opportunity to ask questions. Questions, we're asking you to put them in the chat. I will be monitoring the chat and getting the questions. You can direct them to a panelist individually, or it can be a general question. Any questions that we don't get to during this session, we will be capturing them and we will be getting answers out to them and sharing them with you afterwards. So just before we get into our first panelist, I'm just going to give you one thing from my career that was incredibly helpful. And I would encourage everyone, particularly as you're starting out into a career in PM, or even just moving into it a number of years, is I have always had a mentor. Very early on in my career, I was running projects, and as many people in my age group, we just kind of started it ad hoc because that's just kind of what you did in your career. You started in IT and then you ran projects, and before you knew it, if you enjoyed it and were good at it, the company you're working for just gave you more and more things to do and projects to run. And that's what happened to me. But along the way, I ended up with a consultant who came in, who had been a project manager for many years. And I was very fortunate. She took me under her wing. She introduced me to PMI. She introduced me to formal project management. And I will say that she's the one that really got my PM career going. And as the years went on, and as I started working in different roles, and I will say moving up the corporate ladder, I found other mentors and other people that could help me move along, people that would give me tips, people that would help me navigate an organization, people that would give me advice and guidance throughout my career. So I just encourage each and every one of you, if you haven't got a mentor already, to look and find a mentor, and it could be within your organization. If you belong to a project management association, it can be someone there, or it could just be a friend. But I have found that incredibly valuable, and as I said earlier, I encourage you all to go along that path. I'm going to turn it over to Jane to start our conversation. And Jane, if you could just tell us a little bit about your career journey, what has made you successful, how have you gotten to where you are, particularly focusing on some tips and secrets that maybe helped you.
Love to. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Linda. I appreciate that introduction. Yes, you're going to see a common theme, I think, throughout this whole day about communication and people. I'm going to actually have a few words to say about that too. But first and foremost, I know that we're all from different cities and provinces across Canada. So I myself am from Mississauga, Ontario. And I just want to take one moment to acknowledge the lands which make up the current day city of Mississauga as being part of the treaty lands and traditional territory of the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation, Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat First Nation, which recognize the ancestors of the present-day peoples, the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Huron-Wendat, and the Ojibwa Chippewa peoples, who inhabited these lands since time immemorial. The city of Mississauga is home to First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples. So thank you so much again for having me today. I can't tell you, this is such an honor, and I feel like I have big shoes to fill. It's a privilege to be part of this panel of women who have contributed to project management and the community of project management across the country. I myself have been in the field of project management for upwards of 20 years now. I've had the opportunity to work on some amazing and fun projects over the years. You know, just briefly, I'll cover a little bit of what I've done. I started in the private sector in IT with like the Y2K project, that comes to mind. We're also first to, and now I'm going to really show my ages, we deployed BlackBerry devices to service technicians out in the field. Then I moved into the municipal sector and worked on a few asset management systems projects, deploying handheld devices, CCTV cameras. Currently at the city of Mississauga, I've had the opportunity to work on the motor vehicle accident project that allowed me to get my Lean Green Belt certification. And the diversity of projects is absolutely incredible when it comes to the city and what we're doing currently. Right now, we're working on realty services, automated speed enforcement, and we're also helping out with the 2022 municipal elections. So quite a bit of diversity when it comes to the projects that I've actually worked on. But what we're really here today for is to give back. So I'm going to provide some of those, life hacks or, golden nuggets that we've collected along the way, and kind of, for women that are interested in a career in project management. So let me first start by saying some women have probably known since high school or university that they've always wanted to be in the project management world. And I'm gonna keep it real today. I, for one, am not one of those people. I would probably be classified as what you would call an accidental project manager. So I was doing projects before I even knew what the formal theory behind it was. And I did learn, what that theory was. And when I did, it became very logical to me. So to make those connections between what I was actually doing at work and what those best practices and delivering projects were. So I can see how I could logically see how planning and scoping a project and scheduling, communication, stakeholders, all of that, all of the things that are common to most projects. I think that one of the things that I would suggest is that if you can identify, and we had said this earlier, some of the keynote speaker, Donna and Linda had mentioned this too, but if you can identify what your strengths are and use them to your advantage, then there is most likely, definitely, a place for you in the world of project management. You can excel at, if you're a number cruncher in finance, you could contribute to a project. You have, if you're a software designer, if you enjoy facilitation, in terms of kickoff meetings, brainstorming sessions, or even if you specialize in a specific sector like engineering or facilities. In the municipal environment, we have a lot of that part: planning, architecture, IT. But you can always supplement any of those areas with the expertise of project management. So for myself personally, and if any of you out there know me, I enjoy working with people, and that's where I naturally gravitate towards. So usually you can't deliver a project without people, of course. I'm a big fan of working collaboratively with people towards that common goal or the deliverable that you're wanting to do at the end of the day. And there's so much advice that people can give on about people. Namely, I don't want to give, because how they always say that 70% or 80% of what a project manager does is communication. And I don't want to give that lip service. But what beyond that is being intentional about communication. So listening to the opinions from everyone, whether or not you agree with them or not. That's beside the point. If you, when people have opinions, you can respect them as though those opinions were your own. And that's how you build relationships. And it's important to build those strong relationships, especially when you're working on a project, you're working with a team, you've got stakeholders, you've got, key stakeholders, senior management, all of that. You got to work on relationships, having empathy for others, building trust and rapport with people. I know these are all things that are probably common sense, but again, it's about being deliberate and being intentional of making and working on those relationships. So people and how you treat them is one of my golden nuggets that I would suggest and like to share. Another one that I can think of is never stop learning. If you're one of those people that have a constant curiosity and thirst to get more and expand your knowledge base, then this is definitely the field for you. Whether you're learning about the theory behind project management, or if you could volunteer to get experience and even go beyond that. Like I said before, what your inner strength is. And as I said, people's my inner strength. Then I know that. And I enjoy learning more about how I can understand and engage people. I'm also certified in organizational change management, which is the people side of change. And I've, taken the Indigenous Canada course from the University of Alberta. I highly recommend that to anybody out there. It's very informative. And, just for me to understand more of the things that I wasn't taught in school. And there's this growing trend around equality or equity, diversity, and inclusion. And I would encourage women from all backgrounds to get involved in project management. And, perhaps the project management community, as a community, we need to pay more attention to that and be more intentional about how we include diverse and diversity of people. So I also have one tip, and a lot of these words have been coming up throughout, but I also agree that being innovative, if you, I can't stress that enough. I also have had a mentor for many years, and one of the things that she has always instilled in us is to challenge and break through the status quo. So, you know, which is amazing advice. You know, it allows you to think outside of what you're normally thinking of and using other people's ideas to come up with those. So continuously improve, not just the business, but yourself, right? And project management body of knowledge is not, I mean, I'm not a PMI salesperson here, but it's not the end all and be all. Even though it is a great, you know, framework methodology, it's what you use from that and what works best for your organization. So, you know, do crazy things that are like outside of the box. I can give you an example. You know, back when we started the project management support office, we created, in order to create an outreach of more project management practitioners, we wanted to have a project management advisory committee, and which we still have today, and they help us a lot, of course. But instead of having them, you know, instead of getting them to be voluntold, as some people get all the time, or have, you know, the favorites be on the committee, we realized that a lot of staff go to the job postings. So even though it was a volunteer committee, we put that out on the job postings, and we did that so that we could cast a large net to staff across the organization, and we knew people looked at the postings. So we wanted to get staff that had a passion for project management, and that's what we got. So it really helped us build a project management culture and that community of community practice. So one other thing I think, or the last thing I'm going to say before I pass it off for today, and I hope that I have had some influence on some people that are encouraging them to be in the project management field. But one other thing that I would want to say and share is that, to me, it's always been about people, and not just that, but paying it forward. Someone somewhere along the line will help you. And I've been really lucky in my career to have colleagues, previous bosses that just believe in you, and they just gave you an opportunity. I can't tell you how far that goes for an individual, on your confidence, on believing in yourself, believing that you can add value, and just remember that for when you can do that for other people. And it costs nothing, you know, it just is one of those things that you can do to help. And especially with women, right? You know, we have a hard enough time dealing with equality and the imposter syndrome, and, you know, we don't need the added difficulty of women versus women. So, you know, give others the opportunity to shine and do what's in your power, regardless of what your title is, regardless of where you are within the organization. That's what's being a leader to me, is just lead by example. Do what you would do to others as you want them to do, right? As the infamous book says. And if women could run the world, you know, in my opinion, we would be all very much better off. So
great way to wrap up, Jane. Thank you.
No problem.
So just to summarize, I mean, Jane talked about a number of things. She talked about being intentional with your communications, never stop learning, be innovative, and make sure you focus on people and pay it forward. So some really, really great ideas there. So thank you. And just a reminder to everyone, don't hesitate to put your questions in the chat so that we can address them. You don't have to wait till everybody's spoken. We're going to move on to Amber at this point. So Amber has, as we've all heard from Amber already, as our host here, but I mentioned earlier, she gives back to the community. Her career has focused both on project management and business analysis positions. So I'm just going to turn it right over to Amber to tell us about her career journey and some tips and secrets.
Good afternoon, everyone. So great to be here with you. It's so funny, Jane, you say there will be some common themes, and I think it's just related to what it is to be a project manager, right? 95%, I think, of what we do is like work with people and manage communications and support stakeholder engagement. And so it's not surprising to me that so much of what is getting discussed here is the importance of relationship. You know, Soren Kierkegaard, who is one of my favorite philosophers, says life can only be understood in the rearview mirror, that it has to be lived moving forward. And if I look back at my career, you know, I could never have strategized this. I wish I said I could, because, you know, I'm a business analyst first. That's where I got my start. My first job ever in business was as a technical writer on a project for the Canadian Breast Cancer Foundation. And within 2 weeks of being on that project, it was for a boutique consulting company. The person who was supposed to do everything else quit. And the woman I was working for was like, "You're smart, let's see what you can do." So I learned on the job, business analysis, project management, change management, training, quality assurance, you know, and I worked with Sue on, you know, for 4 years. And one of the biggest things I took away from her, she was that everything was change management. It didn't matter whether we were doing process reengineering or software implementations, working for the ministry, you know, the colleges, universities, and training. Everything was a change management initiative for Sue. So I got birthed into business like that. And I thought that's just how it was. I thought that's how business worked, that everyone operated inside of like organizational change management principles. And then I went out into the world and realized that the conversation for organizational change management, this was back in the early 2000s, was still quite young. But that never left me. And I think it goes back to this conversation about people and people mattering. Because what we do as project managers is we create change in organizations. We lead change in organizations. And people are the ones who are impacted by those changes. And so one of the things that, if I could impart anything upon you, is the importance of like working back from that impact, right? At some point in time, this unique product, good, or service that we're creating, that we're leading, we're accountable for the creation of, is going to end up in the hands of people. So what do they need in order to be able to get the full value? And I think my experience as a business analyst has helped that a lot as well. Because one of the things that BAs really bring to the table is the importance of the value realization to the end user. So making sure that, you know, we started off with this business need. We said we had this issue of opportunity. And did we actually deliver that into the environment in a way that people can actually leverage it and use it? And so oftentimes project managers don't have a BA on their projects, a business analyst on their projects. My invitation is for those of you that are either starting out in your career as project managers or who are already project managers, like really look to see how you can, because that scope definition and making sure that you're getting the scope to the level at which it can really be managed well and it's clear about what actually is needed is so vital to the success of projects. So that's, you know, I know we're here to talk about project management, but I think these things, I call them the holy trinity of the business world, like business analysis, project management, and change management. To me, when we can bring these frameworks and these principles together, we really are able to ensure that we're providing what it is that we're there to provide, which is solutions that actually make a difference in the lives of people. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is mindset. So over the last 5 years in my own personal development, and, you know, Jane, talking about, and other people have talked about, you know, Donna, the importance of ongoing development, I really started to get into neuroscience and neuro-linguistic programming. These things are starting to become more and more prevalent. There are now programs about the intersection between business and the mind and the brain and neuroscience. One of the things that I've discovered, and this applies both to you in your own journey, I think, in your career, but also to the work that we do as project managers, is that 95% of success is actually mindset and belief. And you can give people the best strategy and the best plan in the world, But if what's operating in the background is that people don't actually think the project is going to be successful, or there's not alignment in the project team about what it is that they're there for and they're out to accomplish, then your ability to actually deliver the full value inside of what was created at the beginning of the project is limited. So I really invite people, as you embark wherever you are in this career, in this journey, looking at project management newly, and I could say so much about and echo the sentiments already said here about what women bring uniquely to being project managers. And I think it's already been said and said really well, but I think women make excellent project managers. But I really invite you, because so much of the work we do is about people, what are your beliefs about people? How do you view other people and yourself? And how might that be impacting? How do you view what's possible in the world? I just completed my company. I created Amber Howard and Associates because I decided that I wanted to go out and work on my own projects instead of, being a full-time employee or a contractor. And we just completed in 13 months. We built a 320-bed long-term bed facility in Ajax, Ontario. You may have heard of it. It's called Lakewood Gardens. Normally, this project would take 4 to 5 years. My company was accountable for the IT scope for that project. And I promise you that the one thing differentiator that had that project go the way it was is that none of us knew how to do that. But we all believed in what we were doing, creating new homes for people during a pandemic. And we were committed together that no matter what it took, we were going to make it happen. We didn't let concerns about the house stop us from moving forward. So I don't think it's an accident. We've got over 400 people who've signed up for this event today, which I think is amazing. And I think it speaks to that people are interested in and curious about what a career in project management can make available. Myself personally, I'm getting ready to head off to Bali in a week. This is a skill set that you can take anywhere in the world. Projects exist in every sector and domain. And so I just really invite you to, if this is something that you're interested in, find, as been said, find a mentor, get into conversation about what would be possible. How do I pursue this as a career? And then we're here to support you with all of that. And with that, I will turn it back to you, Linda. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. That's great. Once again, as we've said, we're going to see some common things here. And Amber focused on the fact that people are the impacted resources on a project, and everything is change management. But project management doesn't stand alone. It needs to sit with change management as well as business analysis. And the thing that she did say that really focused on me, though, was around mindset, and the fact that mindset is 95% of your success. And part of your job as a PM is not to just have that mindset, to make sure that your team has a similar mindset. They believe the project is achievable and they're all aligned on what you are trying to achieve. So some great insights, yet again, slightly different focus, some similar but different focus from what Jane has been saying. So on that note, I am going to pass it over to Rika. And Rika looks like she spent her whole career at IBM, IT project management at IBM. So that will also be a really interesting conversation, I think, given that many people have to date have been consultants or moving around with lots of different organizations. And I'd be curious, Rika, whether there was something different or unique that you had to focus on, given you've spent your whole career in the same organization. So Rika, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Linda. Wow, listening to all these stories, I can relate at so many levels because there's so much in common. I think if you talk to IBMers around the world who have spent 20 plus years in one company, you're gonna find very, very different career journeys. I know some of my colleagues who stayed in one area of the business for 30 years and then retired and basically, you know, continue to learn, continue to grow, but did the same kind of work in the same general part of the company. For me, I was very fortunate. Yes, my paycheck came from the same corporation for 27 years. But if I had to describe myself, I'd say I'm a bit of a learning and change junkie. All of the ladies before me have spoken about learning being an important aspect and change being an important aspect. And I think for me, what people often described me as is a bit of a chameleon, because I would morph into whatever was needed to get to the outcome that we were looking for. I started out very technical as a programmer. I was a programming analyst, writing code, not writing code from scratch. I was doing maintenance work, which, you know, is the sloggiest of, not a very glorious role, but I enjoyed it. I learned a lot because I got to touch so many different systems in a maintenance environment. I got to work with people across the business from different areas. And I realized what I loved was all that people interaction. And in those days, once you were doing technical work, after a while, you know, you kind of got nudged towards project management. And IBM had amazing training for project managers. And my manager was a very supportive manager who put me through all the foundational training in the first couple of months, not just project management training, formal project management training, but also a lot of what I would call interpersonal type skills. So negotiation, conflict resolution, dealing with difficult people. I remember when I was sent on that, I thought, what did I do wrong? But it wasn't that I realized it was to help me build those skills on how to work with people that do come across as maybe a little difficult. So then as my projects got bigger and bigger, at one point I had an opportunity, because I had spent my whole career in maintenance. Most people had moved to the large development projects where the glory was. I didn't. I stayed for almost 10 years. And then the world of application outsourcing became a thing. And so IBM wanted to create a startup. So within a bureaucracy, I got to be one of 5 people who started a startup. So that pushed my learning boundaries. I still was doing project management for application support environments. So I was still using my project management skills, but applying them in how do you create a business unit that is going to sell this kind of work, and how do we make sure we're going to be successful. So they wanted me to be the one that could confirm that, you know, we weren't going to lose our shirt if we sold that we could do this for a customer. So after doing that, that was just such an exciting opportunity, probably one of the best roles I had in my entire career. Then kind of just going back and doing more maintenance wasn't going to cut it. So I moved to strategy consulting, which kind of allowed me to do more of the same kind of work of working with external clients. So I had the chance to travel all over the world, different countries, spent a lot of time in the Caribbean. And the nature of strategy consulting, much as Amber was saying, I had to get into business process work, because you can't implement systems successfully and make them actually add value if you don't understand how they're going to interact with the business processes and align the business processes to make the whole solution work. So I ended up on like a full year project on business process reengineering, where I was a business analyst, but I had the chance to actually estimate and plan the work. So I was applying my project management skills even in the context of a business process reengineering program. And then, of course, that progresses, much like all of you ladies before me have said. Your projects get bigger, you implement the IT right, you implement the process work right, but if the people don't want to tango, then it's still a failure. So that led me into the world of organizational change management. And I did go ahead, and that's why I smiled when you said Holy Trinity, Amber, because that's the path my career took me, to each one of those disciplines, to really deeply learn them, see how I can knit them together. And that's another thing I've actually had a leader tell me that I'm a knitter. And I thought that was really funny because I'm actually a knitter. I've been knitting since I was 5. But I never thought about professionally that people would see me as a knitter. But they see me as a knitter. I said, why do you call me a knitter? And he said, well, because people all know their pieces, and you come in and you kind of knit it all together and it all makes sense. So so that was kind of my strategic consulting part of my career. And then I did another big shift being at IBM. It took a while to convince people that I wanted to try this type of a role, but I moved into sales, but still selling the solutions we deliver, and being able to price them in a way that we make profit and don't lose our shirt. So in terms of some of the things, and then after sales, then I moved, then in the last 6 years, similar to Amber again, our paths seem to really parallel, Amber. I started my own small consulting company 6 years ago to continue to focus on the type of programs and bring all the skill sets of myself and some of my colleagues who have joined me to both large clients, as well as what I love doing now is helping small entrepreneurs because the same skills can really help entrepreneurs take their companies to the next level. Some of the key sort of suggestions that I would have for those of you that are thinking about pursuing a career in project management, I think some of the important skills are around organization and being structured. It's important. The ability to communicate to people at all levels in the organization. So whether you're talking to the C-suite level executives, whether you're talking to the help desk person, whether you're talking to mid-level managers, they all see issues in a different way. And it's part of the fun of being able to work on large programs is to support people across the organization. Multidisciplinary, I like Amber's word of Holy Trinity. That's what I mean by multidisciplinary. The more you can learn more about the different disciplines, the more you can project management successfully. The other element I will throw in, and Jane, you alluded to it, is the multicultural aspect. Being in Canada, and in my career at IBM, as well as now, we work in an environment where there are people here from all kinds of diverse backgrounds. And everyone experiences and works a little bit differently. So the more that we can understand what those differences are and what people need, we can sort of build stronger teams and allow people to really achieve their full potential. And so to me, that's where I get the joy, like knowing, for example, I had a young fellow on my team who just got married, and he didn't want to be in another province working all by himself. And I could see that he was miserable. And being able to see that and say, hey, what's going on? I didn't know what was going on. But when I asked him what was going on, it was, I just got married and we're like separate parts of the country. So what can we do? Can we bring your wife over? And we were able to do that, which meant he was so much more happier, so much more productive, and it just makes for a great team. People who work on different shifts, people who are single moms, those are things we can really appreciate and empathize with and help make people be, happier to be on our teams. And I guess to me, people have talked about this one, critical for my success, multiple sponsors. To be able to move up, to be able to be given accountability and responsibility for bigger things, you need people higher up in the food chain that have confidence in your ability. And so building those relationships with sponsors that know of your interest and that are willing to support you, you have to keep looking for them. You never stop. There's never a, oh, I have a sponsor now, I'm good. You got to keep looking for more sponsors all the time, inside your company, outside your company. Mentors, multiple mentors again, inside the company, outside the company. How can you keep learning, keep being the best you can be? And the other one that I found really helpful early in my career was multiple buddies. So other PMs that were kind of at the same level as I was starting out, and just sharing notes, saying what tricks are working for you, and what can I learn from you, and what can I share with you, so that we've got a fair exchange of ideas going on. That really, really helped me in the early stages of my project management work. And I'll leave one thought with you.
Okay, you can wrap up.
Profession. I was told when I first started, you'll always have a job as a project manager. It's recession proof.
Okay, thank you very much, Rika. Again, some really good things. I won't repeat what she said that others had said in different ways, but two things that stuck with me is Rika mentioned about being a chameleon. So being able to be flexible and have the ability to adapt to different environments, and also being what she called a knitter. Again, the person who pulls all the pieces together. And that's really critical skill set for a project manager. So thank you for highlighting those things, Rika. We really appreciate it. And on that note, we are going to move on to our last panelist in this session, and that is Alice. And Alice is currently the head of the PMO for the City of Vaughan here in Toronto. So Alice, if you can give us some of your tips and strategies, that would be great. Thank you. We're not hearing you, Alice. Amber, can you hear Alice? I'm not hearing her.
It's Alice. Allison.
Allison, yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
Alice.
okay, we're good now. Sorry, I thought
Looking at Allison
was control on the control panel. Okay, thank you for having me today.
Thank you.
Okay, as the last person on the panel, I sort of had a suspicion of what my three fellow panelists would speak about. So rather than reiterating pretty much what they've said in terms of the opportunities and benefits and value of project management and how it's contributed to me as an individual and how I've been able to contribute back to the organizations I've worked for, I thought I would like to give our participants today a little bit of insight into sort of some of the project details of initiatives that I've been fortunate enough to work on, so they can actually see what some of these projects look like. And I'm doing this from the perspective of what I'm calling a global project manager. I've been hugely fortunate in my career to be able to work in multiple countries for extended periods of time. And although project management remains the same, some of the nuances very definitely change from one country to another. I started out very much like Jane, an accidental project manager. Got into it from a software engineering background because I was the senior team lead on a project, on an initiative, and was asked, did I want to take the system to the client? And of course I said yes. So I very shortly found myself on a plane headed for Australia and spent the next 9 months installing a custom system for the Australian Air Force. This had required an RCMP background check, which was something I had never even considered. You get to fill out 19-20 pages of detailed information about every aspect of your life. It certainly opens up your own eyes to yourself and where you've been and what you've done. The client in this case, they needed a solution that was going to deal with aerial photography and reconnaissance flights over Australia and its territorial waters. So this was very much of a one-off system. At the time, I was working in the area of geographic information systems in the very early days. The first commercial systems had come online in the late 70s. I was doing this in 1986. So the concept of this technology was very, very new globally. In this particular case, we had a highly curious and a highly educated sponsor who was on site. So I found myself spending a lot of my time answering questions and having detailed conversations. But that's where client management comes in. It was worth my while to invest my time having those conversations, basically entertaining him on my time, because it established a rapport. It allowed him to see what it was that we were doing for them, and allowed me to establish a strong sense of trust, which is critical when you're dealing with your sponsors. The following year, I spent 6 months in Florida, working on a system for 2 levels of government simultaneously. 2 agencies, they had same goals, but very different priorities. So it was a constant juggling of the expectations of these 2 sponsors to make sure that we were meeting both sets and moving the project forward at all times. One individual was very aggressive and demanding in his outlook. The other was very laid back. So apart from actually having separate priorities, we had very different personalities to deal with. So again, this notion of getting to know people, listening to people, understanding their perspectives is very, very important when dealing with project sponsorship and your project leadership teams. In the early 90s, after having gone back to university and earned myself a master's degree in geographic information systems, I then went to Amsterdam for 2 years, building a center of excellence and taking a piece of commercial software from Canada and building national versions. So that meant languages. All of these versions, the language of the user interface all had to be converted so that when you saw a drop-down list, it was German or it was Spanish or it was Italian as appropriate. The team in the center, there were representatives from the customer's national offices. There were direct colleagues, myself and my colleagues from our company, and then we also had third-party contractors working. So the team was very diverse. Reporting structures were incredibly complicated because of the different organizations that everybody was reporting into on multiple levels. In this case, language became an issue. We had multiple people with varying grasp of English in all of its levels, not just business language, but obviously we're spending a lot of time together, so you start getting into the colloquial language, the slang language. So there was a constant backwards and forwards, learning opportunities, mistakes made, laughter, but always in a good way. It was very much a team environment, team support. Patience and communication were essential in that particular assignment. In the late 90s, I was very lucky to spend a year in Sao Paulo, Brazil, working for a state water agency. They have 40 million clients just in this one state. That's more than the population of Canada. So you can imagine the paperwork, the databases, the information flows around an organization on that scale. It's like working for the federal government. We were working very much in an applied research, proof of concept sort of an environment. So although we had to deliver product, none of it was going to go into live production environments. So we had a latitude that is not always available when you're working directly for a client. This is usually the sort of work that is done behind the scenes in the parent organization. A very structured, very hierarchically oriented organization on the client's part. A couple of times I actually had my senior representative say to the client, I'm putting in air quotes here, she's older than she looks. So there's a very definite expectation that with age comes wisdom, age comes maturity, age comes experience. So we're constantly having to sort of beef up our own experience levels because of the expectations of the client. The team makeup was constantly rotating in and out. Over the time that I was there, we had somewhere between 8 and 10 people, with roughly 4 to 5 people on site at any given time. So there was constant shift in the information, the team makeup and who was involved in which part of the project. We were dealing with 100-year-old documents. We actually had hand-drawn locational documents that identified where infrastructure, underground pipes were laid. Of course, the above ground makeup has changed over time. So the challenge was in reconciling those documents with what actually is in the ground and where it is today using modern positioning information. In this case, documentation was critical because of the nature of the team, the constant changing makeup, the nature of the fact that we were doing these proofs of concept, that these were going to have to be handed over to the client at some point for them to then take to an operational level. Solid documentation was essential. And I know that's not a favorite of anybody, but in this case, it was absolutely critical. And given the nature of the organization, this hierarchy, the Brazilian notion of family and respect for elders and so on, we had to learn and respect the local culture and their local history, both of the organization and the country. Couple more projects. Big one was my 5 years in Italy with working for the European Commission in one of their research laboratories. We had projects involving 5 to 10 organizations right from across Europe. Generally people who had held high positions in their own organizations. So again, that respect for their knowledge, respect for their experience and what they had to bring to the projects. We had to be able to work in multiple languages. It was common to have English, French, Italian, German all flying around the table at the same time. And trying to follow all of those conversations is not easy. My German is very rudimentary. I can manage in the French and the Italian.
Okay.
I would say that my
sorry, if I can just ask you to wrap up, Alison.
Absolutely, I was just heading right there. The common challenges that I would say come across all of these specific examples, processes, whether that's budget processes or approval, communication, stakeholder management, the notion of culture eats strategy for breakfast. Doesn't matter what quality of a project plan you go in, if it doesn't work within that culture, you are going to fail right at the very early stages. Common solutions, my common themes are really around patience, communication, learning the organizational culture as quickly as you can. So watching, listening, observing very, very carefully. Establishing rapport. If you've got a good working relationship with your sponsor, any issues that you bring are much more likely to be resolved quickly and easily than if you haven't taken that time at the outset. So my 3 takeaways then from my fortunate career, always be open to opportunities, whether that's on a global level, if you like the idea of traveling to do project management, whether that's within your organization or even in your own department. Look for opportunities and be willing to take them on. Volunteer organizations, whether that's with a project management or a not-for-profit, always looking for volunteers. Great experience to be gained there. Actively listen to people, empathize with their point of view. The more you can put yourself in somebody else's shoes, the more easily you can understand what it is that they're saying, really saying, and why they're saying it. And finally, keep your passport up to date. Thank you.
It's great. Thank you, Alison. I think she summarized at the end very, very clearly for us. But the thread that resonated with me throughout all her career is basically cultural. She talked about different languages, which means cultural differences. She talked about the different sponsors, how they have different personalities and priorities. So to me, again, that's a little bit culture, adapting yourself to be able to work with different kinds of people and shifting potentially some paradigms. So Alison, thank you very, very much for that. So Okay, so our next moderator, Allison, Sandra, had a last minute issue on her project and is not going to be able to join us. So I'm going to step in and help with this. And I'm
Linda,
just get some
why don't we
questions.
why don't we take a few questions?
Yeah, I don't seem to be getting the questions. Oh, here, Kevin's passing it on. Okay. Karina from Vancouver. And I'm assuming this is for any of our panelists. If you have to recommend 5 main points to start her journey in project management, what stuff, soft and hard skills, would I have to learn first? Where can I start to develop my PM career? Is there any program or associations to help us, and where others can experience some of this process? Does somebody, one of our panelists, want to take that on, and I can add to whatever they happen to say? Allison, Rika, Jane, Amber?
Sure. If Karina, thank you for the question. I'm assuming that you're really at the beginning of your career. Find your local project management institute chapter. So join PMI, get to know other project managers, talk with them about their experiences, and learn about how other people have actually got into their profession and how they've developed it. So I think PMI is a great way to start.
There's also the Project Management Association of Canada as well, right? So again, a very good, solid structure that can help you move along your career. But I would like to add to what Allison just said. And joining a professional organization is, I agree, a great place to start. But also look within the organization. I'm assuming you're working somewhere right now. Look within the organization, see what if you have project managers, whether they're formal or informal, what they're doing, what groups they're in, which groups actually have projects underway. There are very few organizations that don't have multiple projects ongoing at any point in time. So even if you don't have a formal project management office within your organization, look to see what the projects are. Talk to the people who are sponsoring or running those projects. Ask how you can help. See if you can get in there and give them a hand. And that's always one of the best ways to move forward and get some experience, get some knowledge, and give you some inroads. Find a mentor, find someone that can help you move along that career path.
So great. I think I just add to what was said, and I'm biased, so I'll say that right off the top. But if you're wanting to look at training, ProCept has lots of courses, introductory courses to project management. If you're wanting to develop some of that knowledge and skill set. And then the other thing I would add is, might seem a little bit weird to some people, but I believe that we create our life, and we start by creating our life in our thinking and our words. So when it comes to anything, it's like get a pen and paper out and actually write out, what do you want your career as a project manager to look like? What are the kind of clients that you want to work with? What sectors do you want to be involved in? And what, our goals, I believe our goals need to be grounded in the intentions for our life. So what intention for your life does being a project manager fulfill upon? Because it's that, those life intentions are what cause us to get out of bed in the morning. So when your goal is grounded in that, it just, whatever obstacles you might come across, or, where things may not always be clear, you'll have that to go. You'll be clear about why it is that you want to be a project manager and what it's for inside of your overarching life. So, I can't stress enough, again, what's been said many times, but having a mentor, having someone that you can talk to, and, you'll be able to find those PMAC as well as PMI. There are lots of organizations, as well as, people on this panel here. I'm sure if you reached out through the links, be happy to talk to you. Thanks, Linda.
Great, thanks, Amber. Okay, here's another question. I'm in the process of kickstarting my PM career, and I'm thinking of interning to enable to get some working experience. I'm writing my exams in a few weeks. Where do I find these internships? I sincerely do not mind unpaid internships at the moment. Do any of our current panelists want to comment on that?
I'll comment. This is Jane.
Go ahead, Jane.
Hi there. Yeah, internships are available to a lot of people if you have a program that you're into. Like for us, I said earlier, we work with Sheridan College, but there's all of the schools and the colleges and the universities generally have some kind of program that they work with businesses in order to allow them the opportunity to do real work, real project work, give them the co-op, so to speak, in a lot of the colleges anyways. So that's where we do and how we tap into it. And, you know, more times than not, we tend to keep those people. So we will attract them and say, okay, look, they're in this program and they're obviously dedicated to that and they are serious about it. So we're going to take them in, we're going to give them some work, some projects. We got some, you know, usually there's about a 3-month stint, but you can get it extended easily. And also you can stay on, you know, if that's what is interesting to you or interested to you. But generally the schools themselves will have intern programs. So you just tap into your area and some, you know, other organizations within businesses within the sector or your municipality or community would have that for you.
Another way to get some good solid experience is again through professional organizations. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a project management organization, whereas obviously those you'll get the most, I'll say, formal structured experience. But any sort of volunteer organization always has projects that are underway, and they're always looking for people to help run those projects. So
Definitely.
whatever happens to be, whether it be, you know, your local condominium board, your local tennis club, or, you know, any sporting events club, any sort of that, they're always looking for people to volunteer and to help them run projects.
Yep, and I believe that PMI also has a volunteer section on their website that allows people to tap into those. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, another one I would add is as an entrepreneur now, I've discovered that the local Chamber of Commerce's are an excellent place for people to go and be able to tap into businesses in the local community that might be able to use your help. So that's another option.
Okay, thank you everyone for your questions. We are going to go into another panel discussion. However, I am noticing the time and we've been at it for a good hour. So I'm going to suggest we take literally a 3-minute break if someone needs to go grab a drink or a really fast bio, because I'm assuming most of you are probably at home, so really close to a washroom. And we will come back. Okay, I'll make it 4 minutes on my clock at 3:05, and we will start again right into the second panel.